PMI KSA chapter. PMI KSA chapter هو فرع PMI في المملكة العربية السعودية، وأنا معاكم المهندس أكرم النجار، مهندس مدني دفعة 84 Certified PMP و PGMP و RMP و PSP و P3O و PMP و MOP، ويعني شوية شهادات كده، وبشتغل بروجرام دايركتور في أحد الشركات في المملكة العربية السعودية. بنعمل PMO، بنستابلش ونوبريت PMO. بشكر الشابتر وكل الزملاء والزملاء اللي اعطوني هذه الفرصه ان انا اكون معاكم النهارده ونقدم اوفر فيو عن البروجكت مانجمنت. الحقيقه الاوفر فيو هيكون عباره عن كيس ستادي. انا حابب ان انا اوريكم شويه حاجات بتتعمل فعليا وحقيقه. حاطين احنا الكلام دوت في برزنتيشن، وهنتنقل ما بين البرزنتيشن اللي بتتكلم على الكيس ستادي لانشاء او الاكستنشن اوف حرم، وده برزنتيشن عملوها المجموعه اللي مكتوب اساميهم هنا، والحقيقه هم شباب من اللي كانوا بياخدوا معانا الدورات في البروجكت مانجمنت. وايضا انا مجهز شويه حاجات ثانيه بشكل اخر، بحيث ان احنا نوريكم الكلام ده بيتعمل ازاي على البريمافيرا بلانر وعلى البريمافيرا ريسك اناليسيز وعلى الباور بي اي. ان شاء الله يسعدك. الو.
Sorry to interrupt. Please allow me to introduce you first and give hints to the attendees before giving the stage to you.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. On behalf of BMI Kingdom of Saudi Arabia chapter, I would like to welcome all of you to our webinar. We are delighted that many of you were able to join us this afternoon. The reason that we arranged this webinar is that we are focusing on our vision to be the leading professional institution of project management advocacy in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as well as our dedication to effectively keep you well cultivated and well versed in the field of BM, and ultimately to contribute to the advancement of your career. Thanks for joining us. It's a great honor to have you all. Without further ado, my name is Minar Al-Balawi, leader of membership benefits at BMI KSA chapter, and I am really honored and pleased to host this webinar, which is about project management overview, presented by engineer Akram Al-Najjar, a BMO and project manager who has built the capability of tens of thousands of professionals in the project, program, planning, and risk management through training that he provided for the professional master in project management offered by George Washington University in USA, and many other courses in the project management. Before I leave the stage to Mr. Akram to tell us more about himself and then start the webinar, kindly, in case you have any questions, write them down in the Q&A section, and we will discuss them at the end of the webinar. Our webinar will last about an hour, and it will be recorded and published on our social portals and on our chapter YouTube channel. So please, Mr. Akram, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Minar, and thanks for all the attendees and also our colleague in PMI chapter. Thanks for this opportunity to provide the project management overview. I have here a case study about Medina Haram expansion, and this project and presentation has been prepared by some student and PMP certified. They already attended the project management course with us before. Let us start and talk about what is the first step when you want to manage the project you're supposed to do. We're supposed to prepare a project charter. Project charter actually is the documents provided by the sponsor in the project, and the project manager helping to prepare this project charter to tell everyone what is the objective from the project and what are the milestones date for the project, how much the budget for the project, and many other information. It is like the birth certificate for the project. It's give you all the information you might need in high level and summary. I will swap between some presentation, other presentation, and this presentation, because I would like to show you also is not only the presentation. I would like to show you some output and deliverable from a Primavera 6. Is my screen now? I don't have another device to check if my screen now showing the Primavera. If yes, please write 1 in your chat. Hamad Fathi 1. Okay, very good. Okay, that's fine. This project here is like a simulation project. I prepared it for a city called Zenobia. Zenobia project has some information we can find in the project charter, and here we can launch to the project charter to know a format about the project charter. I believe the project charter format is clear now for everyone. Yes? 1, please, Muhammad Fathi. Can you see now the project charter format? Yes, okay, very good. The project charter, which you already saw in the presentation, presenting usually the project title and project justification, project description, level of requirement, high level of requirement, and the high level of risk, and also presenting the project objective like scope objective and time objective, cost objective, and any other objective for the project. What are the success criteria? Who is a person for approving that? Usually the project charter, as I told you, providing a summarization about the projects, and also we are providing a summary milestone for the project, like what are the due date for the major event. The project charter also give you an estimation about the budget and who are the main stakeholders and what are their role. Usually the project charter provide also the information about the authority level for the project manager, and any decision can be taken by staff, and what are the accepted variants for the project budget and time, who is going to take the decision, technical decision or any managerial decision, how we are going to manage the conflict, and then it is approved by the sponsor. Project charter is the first step, as I told you before, to give the life to the project. Once we have finished the project charter, we are preparing what we call it WBS, work breakdown structure. The work breakdown structure is hierarchically deliverable oriented, showing to everyone what are the components and deliverable for the project. Here is the WBS for Haram expansion project in the presentation, and I will show you the WBS for the Zenobia project. But first, let us understand what are the WBS. It is work breakdown structure. And if you are in the agile life cycle, we call it product backlog. Either WBS or product backlog are contain all the deliverable needed to complete the project successfully, and only the work needed to complete the project successfully. However, in the waterfall life cycle, predictive life cycle projects, because it is plan driven, we know exactly, most properly, we know what are the products and deliverable we need to deliver for completing the project successfully. However, in the agile environment, we have high level only about the scope. We know how much the cost should be. We know the time, how much. But however, the scope of work is more flexible, and usually we are saying welcome to the change. Let me show you in Zenobia project how we are building our WBS, our work breakdown structure. Our work breakdown structure in Zenobia project, Zenobia is a fantastic city, and they want to, they have some objectives, they have some strategic objective. They need to improve their economy in the city, so that they have the 4 perspective for the strategic map. What are the 4 perspective? Usually they are going to improve the learning and growth for the people living and studying in the city. And also they are improving the processes through some projects like digitalization, and they are improving the processes for, like, they are making some project like infrastructure and whatever. Also, they need to improve the health care for the people living in Zenobia. This is why they are going to build a hospital. They are going to construct a hospital. But for the construction project, they have a car showroom. They have going to construct 15-story residential. tower, and also they are going to construct a steel factory for non-woven products, also administrative office and large mosque. While they intended also to build an national university, and also they want to rebuild the city's infrastructure. But for the tourism, because Zenobia has a very nice location, they want to build an international airport and a commercial port and a museum. So this is the Zenobia WBS work breakdown structure. And after we finish the WBS, I will go back now to the presentation. So we have two simulation, two case study, one for Zenobia, one for the Haram project. After we finish the WBS, the work breakdown structure, and we came to know now what we supposed to do, we will go for the scheduling. Scheduling means all the activities needed to complete the project. We want to build it in the network diagram, know what is the early start and early finish for each activity there, and when we're supposed to deliver this deliverable, if there is some deliverable on the critical path or not. And then after that, we can construct the bar chart for the task there, and estimating the cost for each task, for each deliverable, and come up with the cost baseline. So those activities or those steps are the main steps for the project management. Let me go for Zenobia and see how we are dealing with that while we are constructing the schedule, and also come up with the S-curve. This is exactly what's happened for the Haram project, but I'm presenting two ways. Haram project in the presentation, I mean the PowerPoint, while Zenobia project, it is presented on the Primavera and how we are using that. So those are the activities, and the bar chart, the green bar chart, are the projects we already presented through the WBS. Like, for example, this is the car showroom, needs 24 months to be finished, and is going to start on that date, will finish on that date, and will cost $150 million. The second project, the third project, fourth project, all those projects, they have some months durations, and they have a start date and finish date, and they have also the assigned resource for that project. So the project now is gonna finish, I mean the program now, we can say program, we can say portfolio, whatever you like, you can mention it. There is some projects are dependent, interdependent on each other, so that projects are program. Like if you go to the WBS again, this is a program. We have here car showroom, construction story, the 15 floor story, and those are the construction program. While the education and healthcare doesn't have interdependency, unless if we consider that the university is going to provide the healthcare, I mean the hospital with doctor and nurse, so that two projects are dependent to each other. But the infrastructure project definitely needed by the other projects. So we have a portfolio, included some projects, and included a program here. So that projects and program, we already made a schedule for it, and also assign how much for each project to come up with the S-curve. The S-curve will tell you, this is a cumulative one, and this is monthly, to tell you how much we needed to expense for each month. How much needed expense for each month. So let us go back again to the presentation for Medina Haram project and check what we discussed so far. We discussed the project charter, and we came to know that each project to be started, we need a project charter to have a summarization about the project. And then we discussed about the WBS or product backlog if you are in the agile environment. And that WS or product log are like the container, contain all the deliverable needed to complete the project successfully. And we discussed also the network diagram and bar chart. You must provide it to know the project schedule, when the project start, when the project finish, when the activity start, when the deliverable will be delivered, and which deliverable and which projects are critical. Then we have estimated the cost for each activity or for each project in our portfolio. to come up with the cost baseline. Let me go back for the stakeholder and stakeholder analysis. Stakeholder analysis is one of the project management essential process, because if the stakeholder are not identified properly, maybe they will affect your project negatively, because some of the stakeholders is going to be resistant for your project. Suppose those are the stakeholder for HARAM project, and this is the current status for each one, and here is the category for the stakeholder. Like MOF, Ministry of Finance, they are neutral against the project. But now, and we need them, D means the desired status. We need them to come up as supportive for the project. So also, when you work in any project, you have to identify those stakeholders and build these grids to know who is going to impact your project. He has a high power and influence or interest, high interest, so you can manage them closely, and who has a low power and low interest, so you can manage them with minimum effort, and who has a high power and medium interest, so you can manage them and keep them satisfied. So by these grids and the other engagement or analytical assessment stakeholder matrix, you can manage the stakeholder. Let us go for the Primavera and check how can we inject the stakeholder register as a documents. Here are, this is a stakeholder register, stakeholder. Okay, you can launch the stakeholder register. That will be open the Excel sheet. We have a format for that, showing you that every stakeholder here, he has high or medium or low power. And that power also can be direct or influence with a weight. And he has a level of interest, non-technical interest and technical interest, or any other impact. So when you have a brainstorming with your team and you come up that Akram, he has three means medium influence for the that work, and direct influence for that work, for the project, I mean. So his score is 2.5. You work and you go for the stakeholder register by this way, which gave you the grades to know that Akram in this area, which is amber, while Sabri in the high area and Ahmad in the high area. So I will put the strategy now and start to manage Sabri and Ahmad closely, while I will keep Akram satisfied. So by this way, I can add here another column, like the column which we already mentioned here in the presentation, to tell everyone that Akram or Ahmad or MOF or any stakeholder, we are going to give him a presentation or prototype to ensure that project objective on the track, then he can give us support. So what did you do now? We already presented the charter, the first step, and stakeholder classification, stakeholder grid can be work parallel with preparing the WBS or the product backlog. And also we have to have what we call it RACID chart. RACID chart means every deliverable in the WBS, we're supposed to assign somebody. That persons are working like senior structure, another working senior architecture, another working senior mechanical. So we have to know for each activity or each deliverable in WBS who is accountable. That means who is going to be accountable for the success and failure. Accountable is accountable. Whatever responsible means he is going to act and he is going to execute the work by himself. So I have to assign in the RACID chart who is accountable, who is responsible, who is informed, who is consulted. Then we can have all the picture about the project and the RACID chart. Then we have to have some risk analysis and risk register and risk breakdown structure. And this is the risk register. I have to list some risk and add this risk with the analysis when I know what is the probability for each risk and how it will impact the project. And if that risk is very high, it's going to be assigned in the red area. If it is not very high, it is medium, it's going to be assigned in the yellow area. While if it is low, it's going to be assigned in the green area. To do this, you need a software, because the software is going to help you, and I will open the software now, help you to make some calculation for the risk analysis. Here is the same project for Zenobia, and I already imported that plan from the Primavera, and I run the risk here. After I prepared the risk register, you remember the risk register we presented in the presentation? Yes, it is similar here. We have here the risk, the list of risk. We have here the risk breakdown structure, if it is risk coming from regulatory or financial, environment, technical, managerial risk. And also we have here the probability, the impact on the project objective, and then the score. That score actually coming when I already assigned and I adjusted my matrix here. Similar like the matrix we presented in the presentation for Haram, but I'm customized the presentation to know which area is red, which area is yellow, which area is green. It is depend on the tolerance scale here and the probability scale here. Once we already put the risk register, and I put some mitigation action here. Those are mitigation action to less or to low the risk, which is red T, and to increase the risk, which is O. And then you can run this risk to calculate many things. To calculate, for example, Monte Carlo. And Monte Carlo analysis actually is going to give you the probability for the deterministic date and the probability for the other dates. Here is Monte Carlo analysis, which is selecting randomly, and that random is programming in the computer to know that your deterministic date, which is calculated by the critical path, has less than 1% probability to be achieved. You have a risk, and 50% to finish on that date, not 23 October. It will be delayed, and another 80% delay to that date. After you calculate this calculation, tell your software here, please, I want to build impacted risk. Building impacted risk, after you assign the risk, all the risk on the activities, will give you two scenarios. One plan before, and the other one, one is post mitigation, and other one is pre-mitigation. When you calculate the risk for the pre-mitigation and post-mitigation, you come up with a nice curve showing to you, the distribution analyzer, showing to you what is the duration or the finish date down here, the finish date or duration for the project, and how much the probability to finish your project if you have the risk, if you mitigate the risk, and before you mitigate the risk. So all this calculation, all this statistic help you to understand and help the project manager, portfolio manager, and any manager to understand how we can work with the project. Let us go back again for our presentation. And let me remind you, what did I do? We started our project, and we said that to start the project, you have to have a project charter, which is summarize each and every information about the project. And then we need to identify stakeholder, classify them, came to know who is have high power and high interest, and who has low power and low interest. Then you have the metric for assessment to understand the current status and desired status, and also the strategy to change his status from current to desired. And then you can also, at the same time, you can build the work breakdown structure to know all the work required and only the work required to complete the project successfully. And you assign all those work requirements for your team to know who is accountable, who is consulted, who is informed, who is responsible. Then you build the schedule. To build the schedule, you need to have some predecessor, successor for the activities. You have to have some cost for the activities. You come up with the network diagram to understand the critical path and critical activities. You come up with the bar chart to know the start and finish for each activity. And then you estimate the cost. Once you estimated the cost, you come up with the S-curve. Then you go for the risk management, prepare the risk management plan, consists of the who is going to do what and when and how much it's going to cost us, and prepare the metrics for the probability and the impact metrics, prepare the risk breakdown structure to know the sources of risk, prepare the risk register to understand the situation for the risk and what are the response you are going to use for each risk, and assign each risk in the metrics to understand the priority for that risk. Let us go again for risk, Primavera risk analysis to show you this butterfly. We call it butterfly. Butterfly report. Here is the risk register. We go to report manager, and then open the butterfly report and tell him publish. This is for Zenobia. Zenobia, we have some risk before the mitigation. This is the negative risk, I mean the threats. This is the positive risk, opportunity. And those risks before the mitigation was in a high area. After mitigation, it became in the yellow area for the threats. And before the mitigation, it was in the red, but in the low red. And because it is opportunity, I push one of the risk to the high red. So those report is helping the project manager usually to understand how can we deal with the risk. Let us go back again to our presentation, and let me talk with you about Ishikawa diagram. Ishikawa diagram is one of the diagrams we use it to understand the root causes for the main causes, which Ishikawa assumed is going to be the main causes for any problem you have or any opportunity. For example, here for the failure at marble work, usually Ishikawa saying that Ishikawa is a guy. This is his name, he's a Japanese person. That's due to the machine problem, material problem, execution team problem, people, I mean, methods problem, weather problem. We have the reasons now to have a failure at marble work. And then you start to make analysis for each causes and come up with the root causes. Then put it on the list and start to prioritize it with a brainstorming and make some solving and management for that cause and effect. Also in the project management, we have to have a communication plan, because as you know, the project manager and the team leaders are always presenting communication like reporting, integrating, briefing, meeting, and they are spending from 70 to 90% communication. So I have to list here my stakeholder, which you already identified before, and write here what is the information needed from them or information needed for them. And then frequently when we are going to give them method, what is the way, who is going to be responsible, you can add whatever in the communication management plan. For the procurement, usually we have to write what are the types of the contracts. We have some types of contracts like fixed price, economical adjustment, like fixed price and incentive fee, like time and material, like lump sum project, fixed price only. So we have to choose the appropriate type of contract which is making some less risk for our side. For any item, goods, services is going to be procured from outside the organization. Usually when you have a bid, you have to have an evaluation criteria. That evaluation criteria distributed by point. Like for example, technical capability, we give it 20% or 20 points. Past performance, 15 points. Classification and so on. So all these criteria have to have total, of course, 100 points. So when we have a vendor or supplier or contractor and we open their bid, technical one and financial one, our committee can give score for each criteria, and then we can choose based on that, not only the price, not only the lowest price. That was all the talk, and I'm ready for any question, please. I have finished, Manar. Hello.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Trump, for your rich webinar. We have 2 questions actually up to now.
Yes.
In the Q&A section. One question from Mr. Tariq.
Yes. Yes, I read the question now, and I will reply, Minar, if you allow to me.
Yeah, please.
Mr. Tariq is saying that, are you agree that the stakeholder register is a confidential document? Definitely, yes. The stakeholder register is a confidential document, and this is by the best practice. This is what the PMI is saying, and the experts saying, everyone saying that the stakeholder register is supposed to be confidential. Only the project manager and the very few people can see that, because you are right. You are going to write some strategies like, I'm going to kick off this this vendor. So it's not logical that everyone see that. Yes, Tariq, I agree with you. We have Khalid Al-Muhammad. Khalid, what about the issue that appeared during the project implementation phase? What are the approach to deal with the issue? Usually we have an issue log. The issue, like everyone knows, is different than the risk, because the risk is a future phenomenon. We are expecting the risk. We are dealing with the risk like what we mentioned here in our presentation, that we are expecting the event, which is might have impact positive or negative. But the issue is the problem only negative, which has happened. And usually we have an issue log contain who is the owner and what is the due date, what is the strategy to solve this and that. Muhammad Amjad. Can we have video of the this webinar? I believe yes, they are already published this video on the PMI KSA chapter YouTube. Am I right, Minar? You are doing this, yes?
Yes, correct. We will record it and we will send it through chat.
Okay. Again, Khalid, in the last slide, the scoring showed that the technical aspects were given 85 and financial 15%. Is not too much for the technical aspects. That was the opinion of the team who prepared this presentation. But I agree with you. The 85 is a little bit more. And this is based on the policy for the organization. Don't worry about that. In your organization, you can add whatever you like. Muhammad, is there any requirement traceability matrix and activity list? And please show critical paths in the network diagram. This is a detail, Muhammad, and it will take time to show you, but I will try to show you this in the Primavera. Here, these activities. Look, it is very small because Primavera is not easy to show that. But we can do one thing. We can know the critical activities from the activity list. From the activity list, you can have the critical activities by the total float. Because any activity has less than 0, total float will be critical. This is why we don't have any critical activity here. For this project, there is no critical activity. But usually, when you start the Primavera, you adjust your project to tell the project here. Let me bottom project detail. To tell him that when you calculate the critical activity, please calculate the critical activity as longest pass. Total float less than 0 or longest pass. It was adjusted and defined as less than 0. So now after it is already, now I have a critical activity. Why? Because the critical activity will be longest pass. You can have some filter here and tell him, please give me only the critical activities. Those are the critical activities. You can even change, this is a Primavera feature. Yani. So you can change this to see the activities only without the WBS. So those are the critical activity. Out of 11 activity, we have some critical activities are those critical activities. Okay, is it clear now, Muhammad? Okay, Faisal, what is the best method for risk analysis and what is the frequency of risk register review to amend the risk if needed? Okay, I have worked as a risk manager for one big project here in Saudi Arabia with Ministry of Interior, and that was my title on 2019. Usually, the frequency for the risk register to be updated, it is once on months, because we have a big, I mean, one every month, because we have a big, large project. It was 100 of buildings, security buildings. It is more than 10 billion. I don't want to disclose information, of course. I give you some rough information. And since it is large one, so we have frequently once a month updating this register. What is the best method for risk analysis? We have two ways, as you know. The qualitative with the risk register, which already mentioned there in the software. And if you want to make quantitative analysis, only for the time and cost. And this is the best method. Usually we have Monte Carlo, we have the sensitivity analysis to come up with the analyzer, the three curves which I already presented to you. This one. This is the analyzer to know what is the impact of the risk on the finish date and on the duration date. So the best way is to represent this distribution analyzer, to run the risk and represent distribution analyzer, so you can have many analyses, or you can use the Monte Carlo also. Okay, this is the Faisal. Are the action of communication plan related to the WBS? It can be. You can assign your action for the communication plan based on the WBS. Yes. Kamran, what is the best practice to deal with the disaster and delay caused due to the project timeline and cost? Look, we already mentioned the Ishikawa diagram. I like Ishikawa diagram. I'm usually using Ishikawa diagram to come up with the main causes and root causes for the problem or for the opportunity. So this is one of the best practices you might use to know what are the root causes. But I will show you something else now. For the, Zenobia, you must have what we call it dashboard. Without dashboard, you are not live. You are not in life. Here, the dashboard showing our 11 project in Zenobia. If we make this project bigger, those are the 11 projects in Zenobia. Is it clear for everyone? And here are the project budget by million. Here are the planning, actual, earned value, schedule performance index, and. So by going to your portfolio to know how much the planned progress and how much the actual progress and how much schedule performance index, if you are still in the amber area or you are in green or you are in red, and the cost performance index. However, also you have to link these projects with the objectives. Everyone knows the balance scorecard. The balance scorecard working to come up with the KPIs for the learning and the growth, and the other one is process. I'm sorry, this title is wrong. And the other one for the stakeholder, the other one for the financial. So when you have your database in Excel or SharePoint or whatever, you can come up with the status for your strategic KPI and the status for your portfolio project. If you want to go deeply and know what is the status for each project, you can just click here. Everyone knows about the Power BI, and everyone knows that when you click on one project, you can come up with the information only for the project. Also, you can go for the trend for the SPI. We work for that projects for 10 months, so we can come up with the trend, and that trend will tell you that you have at the beginning of the year, look, this 31 Jan is 95%, which is in the green area. but you dropped to 89% in March, and you came up, down, but you are still in the what we call it amber area. So this is the best practice and the best way you can have your analysis to know which project in a disaster, which project or activity even in a good shape, which objective and KPI, strategic KPI in a good shape. Okay, Kamran, your question is very nice. Thank you. Ahmed Ismail, is it right to use agile technique in construction project? Yes, Ahmed. If you are Ahmed Ismail, my friend, yes, Ahmed. We can use, I will tell you, during the, what we call it, design phase. In the design phase, you need to have some change, a flexibility for your stakeholder. So you can use a BIM, building information modeling, to change without too much cost. If you want to use agile as an agile methodology, not concept, because you know that agile is the mindset, and they have a 12 principle in the manifesto, and then there are many methodology to be used for agile. Scrum is one of the methodology which is more famous to be used for agile. But I don't think that Scrum can be fit for the construction. You can go for lean construction. Lean is the godfather for the agile. Lean construction has been founded in 1990 something, 1998, like this. I'm not sure, plus minus. And they are using the agile mindset. This is the methodology, and you can use it for construction, Ahmed. Thank you, Ahmed Ismail. Khalid Al-Harsi. You usually have a specific process procedure for adding, updating information on the system, Primavera? Not usually. If you have PMO, mature PMO, and he has a process procedure for updating and for validation for that information, using, of course, digital, I mean, like Unifier in construction, plus the Primavera. We have used this in the Ministry of Housing, and the two projects I run, but not always. If you don't have a software, PMIS, to automate and digitalize these processes, the processes will be on shelf. Okay, Khaled? Okay. It seems the presentation is about program with multiple projects, which is still in planning phase. Can you please explain network diagram? It's already explained. And not only in planning phase, I already explained here the actual. That means this is control after happen. Network diagram showing PVT with example for sample. This is too much detail. Thank you, Mohammed. I believe what I already explained is enough for that. Faisal, thank you for answering the rest question. One more question. Can you talk a little bit about change order management and what is the effective way to manage the cost within budget and satisfy your customer if you have a valid change request? I will talk about the construction because this is my area. You should have a configuration management system. Configuration management system, I mean the paperwork, the tracking system, the process, procedure, governance to control that change and form to control that change. And usually to have a good change control system, not only the system, but following up and implementing the system will make a prevention to keep your budget according to the approved budget, because the construction project, as you know, is a disaster. But if you have a good system for the risk management, for the issue management, for the configuration management system, I believe that you will minimize the change request and you will control the change. Thank you, Faisal. For another agile methodology of standard project management, especially software project, would we follow the same sequence you explain parallel with agile steps, or we should do our methodology mix? If you are talking about the agile for the software, no. In the software, you will have some little bit difference, because in software you have to put your strategy, like you need, for example, high level, you need, for example, to come up with a software in 2 or 3 or 4 releases. So you have to have a release management system. And then if you are going to use this Scrum, you can have some iteration, and the iteration must have a plans, and the iteration must have a sprint plans, and user story, task, point, different way, different methodology. It is similar like what we have here, but I don't think that you are going to use critical path for the story user story and the task for user story. It's small, 2 weeks. Maybe you can do this. I don't know. I am not a specialist in software projects. Thank you, Ram. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Akram. Dear attendees, do we have any more questions?
There is one question here. What is the difference between issue log and lesson learned? You mean lesson learned register? Lesson, right? Am I right? Lesson learned registered, not lesson log. We call it in the project management best practice methodology and the terminology, lesson learned register. The issue log, we only list the issues, and we write also who is the owner. We write the due date. We write the strategy to solve the problem, open or close, like this. But the lesson learned register has an information about the success and failure for each situation in the project. You can use it in the other phase, in the future phase in the project, or you can use it for the other projects. This is the main difference between the issue log and the lesson learned register. Thank you, Ibrahim. Muhammad Imam, in construction project, how we can manage rush project to be matching with the best practice? Some mindset of people cannot achieve quality. Look, the rush project, in my opinion, the best way you can use it is to use the last planner system technique. This technique is part of the lean construction methodology. Last planner, by very simple things, last planner technique is a technique allow you to bring your contractor every few days and check with him item by item what happened, what's not happened, and add this information to your network diagram and critical path to see the impact. Get from your contractor his promise to finish this chunk and this chunk and this chunk, and you are following up him by a very close monitor. Because the rush project actually is always changing. The critical path always is changing. I worked on 1989 with the rush project, which was at Diwan al-Malaki on Mina, for Jabal Mina. At Diwan al-Malaki was rush project, and actually we couldn't work with the traditional way. We have to have some close monitor and control for each and every activity. Thank you, Muhammad. Thank you for the information. Thanks for you.
If you permit, Mr. Akram,
Yeah.
I have a question. What is the relation between project management and change management?
Yeah, it has a very close relation, because each project produces change. If you go to the definition of the project, that the project is providing product or service or result unique. Unique means it was not there. And maybe improving product or service or result. So that means the end state of the project, or maybe incrementally, it has a change. And usually when we have a change, I will give you an example. Usually when we have a change in the organization, we have a resistance. This is why we need to understand the change and the change management, and how can we set a change management plan, implement the change, use Kotar or whatever model for the change. Like, for example, if my project is to establish and operate PMO in an organization, so that means I have a benefit. I have new utility and new capability will come to the organization and the team in the organization to be more organized, more quality, more accurate. So definitely, many of the stakeholders will be resistant and other of the stakeholders will be unaware about the project. So I need to have some plan to deal with those people who are resistant or unaware or neutral and let them supporting my project. This is a change management. This is what we have to do usually. Also, there is another concept of the change management. Change management for the organization. When we go up to the portfolio, what is the main task for the portfolio? The main task for the portfolio is to make balance between business change and running the business. When you run the business and when you change the business, changing the business, like I need to open new branches in West Africa to increase my revenue. So that definitely will make some unbalance for the people who are working in the procurement, in the IT, in the other business as usual in the organization. So that means I need a change management to come up, align with the portfolio management and make this balance between change the business and run the business. This is the, in briefly, the relationship between the change management and the project portfolio program management.
Well, thank you, dear attendees, and a special thanks to Mr. Akram for such rich webinar. We remind you to follow us on our social portals and visit our website to get involved and informed about our chapter activities. BMI KSA information was sent through the chat section. So if you don't have more questions or any comments, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.